You just don't care, no. I don't wanna play. Baby, I'm just fine. I don't need you anymore.
For content information and a link to the written version of this chapter, please check the description below. This is the first chapter of my new story, Stories Live Forever, Just Like Me, Jayjay. You can check out the introduction part just before this, which was released the same day. So yeah, if you want to support me, consider donating to my Cash App or my GoFundMe to help with my transition. And my email is down below for inquiries, including commissions. And don't forget to follow me on my Twitter at UTU with Jayjay. Now, without further ado, let's get right into the story. Immunity to poison. Being immortal meant that after eating the poisonous fruit and dying, I couldn't stay dead. So I was reborn during the time of King Arthur and gifted with immunity to all poisons and toxins. This is a point I've revisited in many of my lives, but in this lifetime I met and befriended King Arthur. He was a handsome man, a fact I reminded him so often that I was quick to become his favourite servant. One day, whilst Arthur sat upon his throne conversing with his adviser Merlin, a young man burst through the doors and fell at Arthur's feet. The king was disgusted by this act and ordered his guards to drag him away. Merlin put a stop to this request after whispering something into the king's ear, which I didn't catch. But it must have been convincing, since Arthur dismissed his guards and asked the young man his name. The man introduced himself as Greiflet, a peasant who longed to be a knight. Arthur found this amusing, but to everyone's shock, granted Greiflet his wish on the condition that he would return alive after jousting with Sir Pellinore of a neighbouring kingdom. The room fell silent, certain that Arthur had given the man a death sentence. But the now Sir Greiflet paid it no mind and jumped at the opportunity. Sir Greiflet rode away the first moment he could, and those of us at court waited with heavy breath for his safe return. I received word from another servant days after his departure that Greiflet was gravely injured, and I was quick to alert the king. Arthur was guilt-stricken that he had almost sent the young man to his death, and vowed to take out Sir Pellinore himself. We gathered a small party to support him on his journey to Sir Pellinore's golden pavilion, and headed off. Upon seeing the knight, Arthur jumped from his horse and charged towards him, demanding the man tell him why he was such a bully. Pellinore laughed and claimed it was because he enjoyed it, and the two began a duel. Pellinore made swift work of shattering Arthur's sword, and the king was so embarrassed that he stormed away and remounted his horse. The journey home, for the most part, consisted of Arthur complaining about his defeat and his hatred for Sir Pellinore, but we encountered Merlin being ambushed by 3 thieves along the way. Arthur frightened them off and ran to Merlin's side. The sorcerer assured the king that he was fine, but narrowed his eyes as soon as he saw me. I decided enough was enough, and I confronted him about his dislike for me. Merlin accused me of harbouring a secret from the king, and though he was correct, to be frank, I didn't see how it was any of his business, so I laughed off the suggestion. Arthur relaxed and put the accusation down to Merlin just being on edge after the ambush. I can't see how Merlin was such a powerful sorcerer, if I'm being honest, if he was taken by surprise so easily. I didn't mention this to Arthur because Merlin wasn't worth the time of day, but something about the situation felt staged to me. Arthur confided in Merlin about Pellinore, and Merlin told him not to worry, for he knew of a sword that would guarantee his defeat. If you're enjoying this story, please consider donating to my, please consider joining my Patreon, which is linked in the description below, for just £1 a month, or your currency's version of £1. So that you can see all of my videos, including my stories, my queer content, everything a day before it is released publicly. I'm so sorry about the cars just partying outside my window. Hopefully they're gone now, and I will continue with my story. But first, remember, Patreon, link below. Merlin led us through what felt like a never-ending valley until we entered a small wood and out onto a hidden clearing. A glimmering blue lake stood before us, and Merlin pointed to an island just visible in the distance. He claimed the island was called Alon, and that between it lived the guardian of the lake who held the sword. Arthur rushed to the water, but moments before he jumped in, dense clouds of mist rolled along the water. Arthur protested he couldn't see past it, and Merlin alerted us that this was the least of his worries, for the mist was poisonous, and it was impossible to pass. Merlin turned to me with a knowing glint in his eye. I sighed and looked over at the lake. I told Arthur that Merlin might be mistaken, and that perhaps I should test it out under the guise that either way the king would be safe. Arthur took a moment to think it over, and then nodded for me to proceed. The lake was shallow, which made it easy to wade through. And of course, being immune to poison, the mist didn't affect me. It just felt like breathing in smoke from a bonfire, thick with a hint of sweetness, but it sticks to you. I got closer to the centre of the lake, and a white light grew brighter until it showed the embodiment of a woman. She introduced herself as Nimue, and as the guardian of the lake. She handed me the sword called Excalibur to give to Arthur, but warned me that by accepting it I must give her something in return. I nodded in understanding, and took the sword back to Arthur. The king laughed as he swung Excalibur back and forth, whilst Merlin watched on with scepticism. He asked Arthur what was more powerful, the sword or the sheath protecting it. The king said the sword, and Merlin laughed. Honestly, that man did get on my goat sometimes. The sheath was more impressive because it was strong enough to protect the blade, which made sense, I suppose, but it's still weird. Then we all set forth to take down Pellinore. The knight smiled with a smugness on his face as Arthur approached. He taunted about how Arthur was to be defeated for a second time, and Arthur winked at us before unsheathing his sword. Pellinore looked entranced by the weapon, but still put up a worthy fight. Well, a decent enough fight considering he was guaranteed to lose. Arthur forced Pellinore to his knees and rested the tip of his sword under the man's chin. He refused to kill him. Something about being more righteous than Pellinore will ever be. The knight thanked the king and pledged allegiance to him. Merlin wasn't convinced, and told Arthur to make Pellinore prove his loyalty by doing whatever he said. Arthur thought on this, and pulled out a request so out of left field it took us all by surprise. Mostly me, because the demand was for Pellinore to kill his favourite servant. "Excuse me?" I yelled as Pellinore leapt on top of me, and forced his blade through my chest. I couldn't believe it. After all I'd put myself through for him, and this is how he treated me. I have no doubt Merlin had convinced him I was not to be trusted whilst I was out on the lake. As my blood flowed onto the ground, soaked up by the thirsty grass, I realised my blood was the gift Nimue had requested. I closed my eyes as I overheard Arthur congratulating his new knight, just before being reborn with the gift of. If you'd like to see what my next gift was, make sure to subscribe to see the next part of this video. And also don't forget to like and share and comment. I love reading your comments and everything. I'm sure you know this by now. And hit the notification bell to be notified of more videos on my channel. My next goal is 175 subscribers. We are currently on 168. In my last part, which was released at the same time as this, I had just barely reached my goal of 150 subscribers, but we have far surpassed that now. So thank you so much for supporting my channel and me, and I will see you all in the next part. But yeah, before that, I am going on holiday next week, so I won't be releasing any stories that week, and I probably won't be writing that week, so I probably won't be releasing it the week after. But in 2 weeks' time, the week after, so the third week, I will be releasing the next chapter of this story. But I will be trying to work on some other videos as whilst I'm on holiday, but of course that'd be few and far between because I'm on holiday and I don't really want to be working. But anyway, thank you all for your support. I will see you all when I see you, and I hope you have a great time. Bye.